everyone, welcome to our first lesson of world cooking. And today I will take your test buds to Hungary because we will be cooking a goulash. It's traditional dish. It's easy, but it's very tasty and it's very nice on a cold winter evening. Okay, so before we start cooking, the first rule is to avoid any cross-contamination in your kitchen. So make sure that every surface is clean, number one. Number two, if you have long hair like me, put it up because you don't want to garnish your food with your hair. And the last thing, but not least, get an apron because you don't want anything from your clothes to get into your food. And as well as this, wash your hands all the time. And now, let's check what kind of ingredients we need for this dish. I have turkey meat. Normally, goulash is made with beef because it gives that extra flavor. But I chose turkey because, number one, it's healthier because it's lean meat. Number two, you can never get wrong with poultry in your stew because it's easy to make comparing with beef. Then we will use 1 onion, 1 carrot, 2 cloves of garlic, could be even more if you like garlic, 3 potatoes, 2 big tomatoes. I will be using tomatoes on the vine because they taste better. We will use Italian passata just to make our goulash a bit juicier and to create more liquid. As well as this, we will use tomato puree, chopped tomatoes, and some herbs and spices such as ground black pepper, smoked paprika, and a stock cube. If you're making your goulash with beef, I would suggest beef stock cube. Just because I'm making it with turkey, I will be using chicken stock cube. And when it comes to our equipment, make sure that you have separate boards for meat and separate knife for meat, again to avoid cross-contamination because we will be dealing with raw meat, and a separate board for your vegetables as well as the separate knife. Also, we will be using a grater and a measure jug. So these are our ingredients and our equipment. Let's start cooking. Okay, and the first step and the most important thing of every stew is an onion. A perfectly finely chopped onion, which we will fry later on. So I want you to concentrate on what I'm doing with my hands and the way I'm chopping my onion. I will be using the bridge and claw method. So the first step is to cut your onion in halves. Then you take one of the halves, you check where is the hairy bit and leave it on and cut the other end. Then peel your onion, which is not always easy, I'm afraid. I often struggle. Not my favorite part of chopping onions, but it needs to be done. Okay, so now the main thing of this method is that you have to cut your onion across, but not all the way through. You have to stop just before the hairy bit. Then you turn your onion this way and it still stays together, as you can see, because the hairy bit holds it together. And that protects your fingers from cuts as well as prevents sliding. And that way you have perfectly chopped onion, all even, because that's important for frying, because we don't want big chunky bits not being fried properly. or small bits to be burned. So that's our onion, perfectly chopped. Do the same with the other half. And then we will fry it in a hot oil. Okay, so now when onions are perfectly finely chopped, I need to fry them. And I forgot to mention that you will need some type of fat to do it. You could use butter or any type of oil, but I will be using olive oil just because I like my food to be as healthy as possible. So I will cover the frying pan with a bit of oil. Wait for a little bit, just till you hear that sparkling sound, because we want the oil to be hot before we add onions. I think I can hear it now, so I will add onions and let them fry till they're golden brown. And when you fry onions, you have to make sure that they're not burned and they're not raw, because they are the base of your stew. So perfect onion, perfect stew, in my opinion. So while I'm frying onions, actually they fry themselves, so I could do something else, like chopping garlic. So with garlic, it's not so important that it's like uniform chopped, because they're smaller than onions, so you can't do it. And it's not as important. So what I do, I just chop as fine as I can. As small as I can. You need a good knife for that, which I don't have. Can you purchase for me? And then, when you chop your garlic, add it to your frying onions. Garlic needs a bit less time for frying because we want all the strong flavor to stay. That's why we add garlic a bit later than onions. So, garlic is in. So now we'll let it fry for a couple of minutes. Not for too long. And onions are getting golden. That's the color I want. So we switch it off because we don't want to burn this. Okay, and now we can concentrate on meat. So as I mentioned before, I have this lovely turkey breast steaks, which I will use as my meat for lovely goulash stew. It's not very important how you cut your meat, but I prefer as small as I can, approximately like 1 centimeter cubes. But if you like chunky stews, you can cut your meat into bigger pieces. It's up to you. So now I will cut my meat into nice cubes, and then I will add it to the frying pan. So now when meat is cut and hands washed after handling the raw meat, we can add it to the frying pan. forget to put it on. Wouldn't fry very well. And now I will season my meat with black pepper, just a pinch of it, unless you like it very hot, which I don't. Okay, that's done. And then I will add smoked paprika. I like a lot of it because it's not hot, but it's very flavorsome. Okay. So now meat is frying with onions, garlic, and spices. What I'm gonna do, I will boil some water. For dissolving a stock cube in a measuring jug. While I'm doing that, I'm still looking after my meat, but I don't want it to burn. Okay? And then I'm going to crumble the stock cube because it's easier to dissolve it. Okay, so stock cube is almost ready. Let's put it aside. And now I will cut my potatoes into approximately 1 centimeter cubes as well, because that's how I like. But as I mentioned before, if you like chunky kind of stew and you cut your meat into bigger pieces, you can do the same with your potatoes as well. Okay, but before I do that, I have to wash up because it's better to clean as you go, because otherwise you will end up in a big mess. Okay, so I'm keep checking on my turkey meat, and at the same time I'm chopping my potatoes into nice cubes. Okay, and then when I chop all of my potatoes, I add them to the saucepan and cover with the dissolved stock cube. And then we boil potato cubes in the stock cube. So it's fine for now. We can leave it and forget it because it will simmer itself. And let's concentrate on the main bit, which is meat, herbs, and all the tomato stuff. So what I'm gonna do now, I will chop 2 big tomatoes. I will wash them first. So wash the tomatoes and I will chop them into small pieces. Again, it doesn't really matter how tidy your tomato is because as it's so soft, it will just blend in with the sauce later on. So I chop my tomatoes and adding them to the frying pan and let it fry a little bit, just for a couple of minutes. While I'm doing this, I quickly grate a carrot. You can slice it or cut into cubes if you prefer your stew chunkier. But as I mentioned before, I like my stews when everything is in small pieces and blending in. So my carrot is ready. I add it to the frying pan. And let all of this to fry for a couple of minutes. Then I check potatoes. They seem to be boiling, which is good. In a nice chicken stock cube. Not even cube actually. In a broth. It's not a cube anymore. Okay. So meat is coming along very well. What we're gonna do now, we will add a tablespoon of this tomato puree, if I can manage to squeeze it out. Well done me. Success. I mix everything together. Then I add chopped tomatoes. And let everything to simmer for a few more minutes before I mix everything together. Okay, so meat is stewing with all the vegetables, mostly tomatoes, very nicely, and potatoes are getting soft, so that means we can mix both together. So whatever I have in this frying pan, this lovely looking sauce, I add into the saucepan. And let it to simmer for a few minutes before I add this tomato sauce, or what it's called, passata. And another thing which I forgot to mention before, but it's better later than never, we add bay leaves. Only 3 leaves, enough. They will give nice flavor and nice aroma to our goulash. So now it's stewing very nicely, and I will add this lovely smelling passata, if I find a spoon in my own kitchen. Success. I normally add 4 to 5 spoons, because I like my goulash being very rich, red, and what kind of liquidy. But it depends if you like it thick or more like a soup. Some people even add flour to it just to make it thicker, that consistency, the texture. I prefer my goulash being more soupy, liquidy. Okay, so I let my goulash to simmer for about 10 minutes because everything is ready and cooked. The meat, the potatoes. I just wanted all the flavors to blend in together, which is looking quite nice. And now, when my goulash is finished, I will serve it can feed my family. And I always like my food to be well presented. So whatever you can find in your house, any green garnish can help you to present your dish in a nice way. What I did, I just put some nice mini wine tomatoes on the side just to present how rich in tomatoes this dish is, and as well as this, because it's so red due to all the tomatoes mixed in, I will sprinkle with some chopped parsley on the top to bring goulash's color out. And here you go, this is my goulash, and now I will go and feed my hungry family. Thank you for your time and your attention. This is my first video, so I feel weird, but hopefully next ones will be better. Thank you very much. Good night.